It was a clean and busy second day of practice for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500. And as the days tick on, we have a more clear idea who the contenders are and some of the drivers and cars and teams who may be in trouble come bump day. Let's get into it. And welcome back just outside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after day 2 of practice for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500. And I emphasize just outside because I need to address something really quick before we get into kind of the actual content. The masks. A lot of comments yesterday about the masks, and a lot of them were misinformed. So look, Marion County, against CDC guidelines, current CDC guidelines, has mandated that inside this facility, you have to wear a mask. So I feel as though it's the right decision for the future of this channel, for the future of me covering races at this track, to wear a mask and follow those rules in these videos. And I'm sorry, like I get it, but ultimately I have to play the game. And the rules are set by Marion County, and the rules are enforced by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And if I don't play that game, if I make some sort of a stand of some sort by not wearing a mask, it will be seen as some big high crime. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to play that game. I don't want to mess with that. So when I film inside the facility, I'm going to have a mask on, and I'm sorry. I get it, dude. Believe me, I probably get it more than you realize. But we're outside today, so no mask, so you don't have to complain about it. So, interesting day. All 35 cars got on track. In fact, R.C. Anderson, while you probably won't see any official times posted, you're going to see times posted here, of course, he was able to complete his rookie orientation practice, but didn't run any part of the official session. So essentially, he's going to have 2 days and then qualifying. So the Top Gun Racing team, that's quite an interesting story to follow as we go into qualification. So without any further ado, let's go to Future David, where we're going to talk about the top 6, the bottom 6, and hopefully some no-toe speeds. Day 2 of practice for the Indianapolis 500 was led by Scott Dixon, the 2008 champion, over 226 miles an hour, 226.8 to be exact. Dixon looked very strong in traffic throughout the day. Another driver who looked very strong was Conor Daly from Noblesville, Indiana. That car, I think, is legit fast. I think Conor is a legit threat for pole, as is his teammate and boss, Ed Carpenter, who's, of course, a 3-time pole sitter at the Indianapolis 500, one of 4 cars over the 226-mile-per-hour barrier today. Marcus Erickson, perhaps a surprise for some, but those of you who have been paying attention, of course, know that he's in a Chip Ganassi racing car. And, of course, the addition of Tony Kanaan, the 5th-place runner today at 225 miles an hour, that team is going to be extremely strong. And Sebastian Bourdais, rounding out that top 6, recovering very nicely for AJ Foyt Racing in that top 6 after yesterday with a blown engine. And I should say one thing, we are going to go through no-toe times as well here, but I think the combined times are just as, if not more important on these days as we scroll over to the next page, which is the back 6, which say, you know, ultimately, if a car can do 226 miles per hour in traffic on race boost, that means that car is very fast. So I don't think we should discount it, especially on a day like today where there was a lot of traffic running. Part and parcel, you see guys like Joseph Newgarden back here, and I don't think we're in a 1995 situation where Penske is necessarily a threat to be bumped, but I think it's notable that Joseph is 30th on the time charts today. Dalton Kellett in 31st for AJ Foyt Racing, kind of a tale of 2 Foyt teams, it seems, because Dalton's not even the only Foyt car in the bottom 6 at 222 miles an hour. James Hinchcliffe for Andretti Autosport. Of course, he's been a part of bump day drama before. He's hoping to avoid that this year. In fact, he was a part of the last row shootout in 2019, the last time there was bumping, and of course he's bumped in 2018. Charlie Kimball, AJ Foyt Racing. Of course, it's always the theoretical if they qualified today would have been on the bump, and Again, if they had qualified today, Santino Ferrucci and R.C. Anderson would have gone home, but R.C. Anderson only just completed his rookie orientation program with the new Top Gun Racing, which really is quite ambitious with their program. They are doing everything themselves, and it'll be a great story if they can make the race. Remember, they only got to beat 2 cars. And Santino Ferrucci really didn't do a whole lot of running today or yesterday, so I'm curious as to what that program's goal is right now, especially considering it's part of the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan team, which is, by all accounts, a car and team that really seems like they are going to be in contention all day long. Of course, they're the defending winners of the race as a team. Now, everybody asked me yesterday for no-toe speed. So we've got the top 3 and the bottom 3 in the no-toe. Now, what is a no-toe? If you don't know, it is the speeds that were achieved without any kind of aerodynamic help, meaning a car ahead of it pulling it along. And as you can see, the fastest speed is only 221 miles an hour, so you can pick up as many as 5+ miles per hour when you get a good toe lap. Alexander Rossi, we haven't mentioned a whole lot of him yet this month, but he was the top of the no-toe times. And kind of picking off where they left off in 2019, Simon Pagenaud just behind him, also at 221 miles an hour. And this one may shock a few people, but it might not shock you if you listen to my reports on the test days here in April. Max Chilton, 3rd on the no-toe charts, 220 miles an hour. He was fast on the no-toe charts at the April test as well, and this is a team that has been bumped in the past. It looks like Carlin Racing may be a sneaky contender, at least in qualifying. The back 3, Pietro Fittipaldi, I've been talking about this team and their struggles thus far, only at 215 miles an hour. And the bottom 2, I don't think we can lead a whole lot of credibility into. Marco Andretti and Graham Rahal. These are 2 drivers that traditionally run in traffic all day. They were working on race setup, so ultimately I think their no-toe times shouldn't indicate that we should panic about these 2 famous last names. I think when qualifying comes, both of these drivers will be safely in the field. Fittipaldi, perhaps not so much. Okay, so today, it was a lot of the same. The first thing I think I need to mention, and need to mention is a strong word, and I almost feel like I shouldn't mention it because it's almost like talking about a no-hitter in baseball, but we currently had a no-hitter here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2 days of practice and no significant wall contact. That's a little bit abnormal. We were all kind of talking about it in our group today, was that it's usually day 2 when we see the first incident. We haven't seen that yet. In fact, really, this day was more incident-free than yesterday. We saw some yellows for incidents that were mechanical in nature, like with Sebastian Bourdais yesterday having a fire. There was an incident, though it didn't bring out a yellow, with Jack Harvey having to change an engine. Really none of that today, so that was kind of interesting. I saw another point that a lot of people were making yesterday was, what's the racing going to be like? It's tough, because one thing that I need to kind of stress to people is that these cars are cars that were built in 2012, or their designs are based on a car that was designed in 2012. And the racing style is not going to change very much until they truly change the actual chassis. So I think you should expect a race that's very similar to 2019 and 2020. That being said, I think there are some subtle differences. It seems like the cars are able to run fairly close together, at least the front-running cars. But with the caveat that it seems like the slower-paced cars, actually there's a larger gap between faster and slower cars, and those slower cars can seemingly be easily passed by faster cars. So that will help with some of those traffic jam situations we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years with this current aero package, where a lap car will get in front of the field and slow everybody up. It looks like some of that may be mitigated, but again, until race day, we really have no idea. Okay, so talking about qualifying real quick, I think you're going to see a lot of the usual suspects up front. I think the top on the no-toe time today was Alexander Rossi. You had guys like Simon Pagenaud up there. Actually, Max Chilton was a driver that I really feel like I need to give some credit to because he was fast on the no-toe times here in April at the test, and he's been fast in the no-toe times here as well. So Carlin Racing looks like they recovered quite a bit from that frankly embarrassing outing in 2019 where they had most of their cars bumped, and then 2020 where their cars really weren't on pace. It looks like Max Chilton, and remember guys, this is a driver who actually led the most laps in 2017. I think a lot of people kind of forget that. So he's a competitive driver at this track given the right opportunity. Conor Daly's another one that I think a lot of people who are maybe outside of the Indianapolis area wouldn't immediately kind of jump to as a favorite for this race. But I'll tell you what, kind of in my observations, it looks like Daley's very quick, both in no-toe, with a toe, in traffic. So it looks like he's got a very good car, or at least he's showing it right now. That's the other thing. I kind of wonder who's not showing it. We haven't seen a whole lot of Penske running in the pack, in the traffic that we are so accustomed to these days. I mean, the Andretti team is doing it, the Arrow McLaren team is doing it, the Ray Hall team is doing it. So you kind of see some of the guys that you would expect to run up front, like a Sato or a Ray Hall or a Dixon, the guys who were, the contenders last year. But you don't see the Pagenauds, you don't see the Powers, you don't see the McLaughlins quite yet. But I think you will eventually see those guys once it comes to race day. It doesn't look like there's really any disasters right now in terms of qualifications. I think my prediction still stands from yesterday. I think you're going to see 51 Pietro Fittipaldi and 75 R.C. Anderson go home on Sunday. But at the same time, I think that gap is very, very small. And I need to remind everybody that, it's probably going to come down to hundredths of a second in over a 10-lap qualification attempt. And any car in the field, whether it's R.C. Anderson or whether it's Pietro Fittipaldi or whether it's Scott Dixon, to just make this field, you only have to beat 2 cars. And I keep stressing that because it seems like a monumental task, and especially for a team that is really only going to get maybe 2 full days of practice, it is definitely an uphill battle. But I wouldn't count anybody out right now. And I know that's apparently becoming a meme that I said quite a bit in the Bandwagoner's Guide. So that's day 2 of running here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indianapolis 500. I hope you guys have enjoyed this coverage so far and expect very much more over the course of the next 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and I will see you in the next video.